What's up, YouTube? Looks like we're online. We have a message from Mimtol. He says, I have been trapped in a mental time loop since 9/11, age 10. That is an eternal return of pre-9/11 media and mass culture, namely Enya's Only Time. Interesting. Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows? Only time. Who can say if your love grows as your heart chose? Only time. Today's topic is nostalgia for an unlived past. So I have some notes prepared and a bunch of things to talk about. From the feedback I've been getting, it seems people like this approach where I have a kind of outline structure, at least tentative program to go through. And then if you all have suggestions or things you want me to bring up, show on the screen, discuss, then we could, of course, talk about what interests you all. So, what got me thinking about today's topic? Actually, I'm actually not entirely sure. It's a bunch of stuff that's coming together. So I had some people suggesting talking about like vinyl records, board games, some kind of old school entertainment of sorts. So you could see on Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse, and with a lot of digital entertainment, people have tried to take the take activities that we did in real life and put it on the digital space. To come to think of it, yeah, one early place I saw this stuff. I know I have at least one person that watches this show that does Magic the Gathering stuff. It's like Magic the Gathering online. Back in university, I had a friend who would play Magic the Gathering online a bunch. So what would normally be like a trading card game on your table, and this could be like, especially like today, I was looking outside, it's kind of a overcast, rainy day, especially with this sort of more dreary vibe. A thing that a lot of people would enjoy doing would be to go inside, get cozy, and to play card games of various sorts. Now, an interesting thing that we're seeing in the present day is a lot of these, like whether it's chess or board games, these sorts of things, a lot of people are so interested in these games that they will happily play them online, not just on a table with physical cards. And this intersects with the NFTs and all this crypto stuff too, because one of the ways in which these trading card companies and associated businesses would make a bunch of money would be based on scarcity. Now with like Magic the Gathering and stuff, you could like write a computer program. You could actually implement the whole game where there aren't so much like rare cards anymore, because if you have a description, you know what all the cards do, then lo and behold, they don't have to be rare. You just like digitally program them in. How did Google search history of pizza? What did I click on? I must have just clicked on this Google thing today. Alright, today, what does Google want us to think about? Cut the pizza to match the toppings. What am I supposed to do? Alright. Oh, it's okay. So Google's trying to have me. They want me to get the correct number of slices. So I have 4 cuts to get 9 pieces. Well, Google, I'm a programming genius. So, if you'll excuse me, I will succeed at your game. Alright. 3 cuts for 3 slices. And they want me to say 3 slices with mushrooms, and then 3 slices with both. This Google game here is actually a pretty good transition, because one of the topics for today's stream is board games, among other things. So this Google puzzle here, pretty funny. So they want me to do 3 cuts. Now that would give me let's experiment. Google, you're making me boost my ego. I'm thinking I'm a pizza shop genius. Gotta brace. Okay, well that's enough Google games. Actually a fairly fun and interactive Google Doodle there. Let's tip my fedora to Google for that one. Okay, anyways, let's get into our topic today. So I've titled the stream Nostalgia for an Unlived Past. And one of the reasons I was thinking about this topic was I'm in sunny California, and in California still the whole like Christmas movies, this sort of thing, it's very popular. Like people might play the song like White Christmas about like snow and all that, and Jingle Bells and Frosty the Snowman and all of that. And a lot of this imagery, sounds, whatever you want to call it, what it has baked into it is a heavy sense of nostalgia. So some kind of warm, fuzzy, fun childhood. So I'm just going to search like Christmas films. Let's see what sort of stuff comes up. Rotten Tomatoes, 65 best Christmas movies of all time. So what do we see here? I have not seen this one. Miracle on 34th Street. So it has to do with Santa Claus stuff. The preacher's wife. Cleric begins to doubt himself. And is visited by an angel. The heavenly emissary is supposed to help the good reverend over his midlife crisis, but he is distracted by the cleric's lovely wife. A remake with gospel music of The Bishop's Wife. So it's like some angel in this film like cucks a guy? How's that? What is this stuff about? Anyways, a lot of these movies, they're supposed to be kind of fun and light, and they're supposed to have nostalgia vibes. Like this one, Home Alone, I think is a pretty well-known movie that gets aired all over your Frosty the Snowman. And you could ask about these movies, like, what is the point of watching or seeing these movies, and how did these movies appeal to a lot of people? And I would say for a lot of people, the appeal is that it's something that they're familiar with. So maybe growing up, they would see these films maybe playing in the background on TV. Maybe they didn't see and watch them in full. Or maybe, yeah, they sat through and they had like Christmas movie marathons through December as they sat and they awaited getting presents or something. Not to be confused with presents, what Mark Zuckerberg wants to build for you in the metaverse. Presents. That's different. Or is it really that different? Interesting questions. Okay, so nostalgia for an unlived past. And with these Christmas movies, you could see how the unlived past is like some snowy suburban thing that a lot of people never actually had for themselves, yet through the television, through movies and stuff, they cultivate a kind of nostalgia for wishing for this sort of thing. So that is interesting. And I remember like growing up that I always found that this was kind of absurd. So here I call it winter LARPing. For those of you who aren't familiar with this term LARPing, a type of game where people wear costumes representing a character they create to participate in an agreed fantasy world. All right, so why is it fair to call this LARPing? You know, if we look at the famous Santa Claus at the mall, tell me that this isn't LARPing, okay? Tell me it's not LARPing. You could go to a shopping center, a LARPing center. You could dress up all silly and pretend it's the winter during a health crisis. Santa Claus at the mall comes with face masks and plexiglass. Well, it certainly seems if he has a toy factory where he's dealing with a lot of plastic, he would come well equipped to do that. Okay, so then Santa Claus is interacting with some children through a screen, similar to how you might order Taco Bell if they have a human cashier as opposed to a robot cashier. Got pastor tells kids at Amarillo Mall that Santa doesn't exist. Well, maybe not this red-suited fellow, but Saint Nicholas certainly exists. All right. Continuing. So I had some people send me in some interesting stuff related to the past streams. In my last stream, Alan stream number 27, I'll just pull up and show the cover image here. Right here, I was showing how this meta logo, it's like this infinity. I can even pull up a bigger version here. Facebook made this, the meta logo, and that meta logo you see here with the Visual Studio, that's a Microsoft logo. There, another infinity, but this represents the ouroboros. Ouroboros. The snake eats snake. A kind of Gnostic occulty symbol. Now, is Alan just cherry picking, pulling out random associations? Or is this imagery found all over the place and we see Gnostic, mystical, creepy everywhere? So I had some people go ahead and send me some stuff. So first, this program, Ghidra, software reverse engineering tool made by feds, namely the NSA. Take a look at their logo. It's a serpent or dragon serpent. Oftentimes it's basically the same thing. What does it represent? Oftentimes it's representing wisdom. So software reverse engineering, that's like you're taking a program and you could execute the program, it could do stuff, but how exactly is it put together? What does it do? So software reverse engineering, it's like a Chinese drone crashes on U.S. soil. Well, then probably the U.S. Army and stuff is going to try to do some reverse engineering to discover more about what the drone's capabilities are, what its mission was, and so on and so forth. So all this is hidden by zeros and ones and stuff, but using reverse engineering tools, you could unlock the secrets of that. So here's a Ghidra, clearly an infinity and an ouroboros. I mean, this one is just unambiguous. In fact, let us actually look up Wiktionary. Maybe this name Ghidra means something, something spooky. What does the name mean? Will Wikipedia say what it's named after? Let's do some Google foo. Ghidra meaning. What does it mean? Ghidra. Okay, it's from the word hydra. So here we have the connection from Final Fantasy Wiki. This will also be related to more of the stuff we'll be talking about. Hydra, also known as Aquas. So this isn't the game. Well, let's just look at, assuming Ghidra just means Hydra, maybe in some different language transliteration. Let's look up briefly what a Hydra is. Okay, Hydra, also called the Lernian Hydra in Greek legend, the offspring of Typhon and Echidna. I thought Echidna was like Sonic the Hedgehog's rival or something. Was it Echidna Sonic? Yeah, it's like Knuckles. Harimogura ka. So desu ka. Yeah, Knuckles. Knuckles is an Echidna. Echidna. Alright. We're getting too deep into the lore. Anyways, Hydra, as soon as one head is cut off, two more heads would emerge. So some crazy sea monster with many heads. It's like a alphabet agency. You shut down one agency, then maybe two more will spawn up in its place. So Ghidra here, clearly an ouroboros from the spooky feds. Okay, another example, Arduino. So Arduino, they do these small little computers used in a lot of like Internet of Things applications. For example, if you wanted to, like, let's say you have a restaurant and you want to have like a screen that shows the menu or something. I don't know, I just made that up, but that would be a candidate for like an Arduino product. You would have like a little chip you put on the back of a monitor or something, and then you have a very low power sort of digital solution. Anyways, their logo too here, it's like an infinity. So theirs isn't as explicitly Ouroboros, but it's the infinity sign, and then of course you have the minus and a plus. I assume that signaling has to do with like positive, negative, like batteries and or binary, something like that, some electronics, this or that. So another example of a seemingly unrelated project that has spooky infinity and Ouroboros, just like Meta. And finally, trigger warning, creepy robot. There's a Sophia robot thing. Whoa. Look at her shirt. Well, so it's this creepy robot that's supposed to. Whoop, camera fell. Creepy robot that is supposed to look very human-like. You could see they haven't perfected their art. But the Sophia robot in that example, first frame I showed you, was wearing a ouroboros on her shirt.
Are enslaved via neurological implants. Are enslaved via neurological implants.
Alright. Enough creepy robots for now. Anyways, the point here is trying to relate this to a previous stream. I was going over some of the symbolism and stuff behind some corporate logos of tech, because tech is one of the fields that I have spent more time than other stuff studying. And you could see, yes, creepy ouroboros pasted all over the place. Is it a coincidence? Are you a coincidence theorist? Or is there some kind of connection? Maybe you could even say a similar spirit behind a lot of these things. I will leave that for you, the viewer, to consider. Okay, returning to our topic of nostalgia for an unlived past. So, a while ago, probably over a year, I was recommended this book by old grade school teacher, actually. Oh, we have a comment. Mimtol says, schizo note, but the infinity loop ouroboros often looks like eyes, owl-like. Oh, that's an interesting note we could look at. Yeah, of course, if we're talking about eyes, then we open up a whole new can of surprise beans with the Eye of Horus and all of that stuff. But of course, so similar to a serpent, the owl is also a symbol of wisdom often. So this owl that observes you and watches. But yeah, I could see how that's like an infinity. We'll get in more into this actually, because now looking at these owls, one of the topics I have lined up to discuss in this stream is actually this creeper called Baby Yoda. And this creeper, you could see, yeah, kind of like owl, where it's like a human. You have the two eyes on the front of the head. But, why is he green? Why does he kind of look like a kind of hairy Graylian goblin? That question and more we'll get into. But good observation here with the owl, also the association with wisdom. Okay. So, back on topic, nostalgia for an unlived past. So, I read this book a long while ago. Here, you can see the rating is pretty good. 4.5 stars. The Revenge of Analog, Real Things and Why They Matter. So, what is this book about? And we could see, let's just read a couple paragraphs of blurb. So, one of Michiko Kakutani. Who's that? Michiko Kakutani. American literary critic for the New York Times. All right. Japanese American. English, Yale University. I think that's the home place of the Skull and Bones Society. Anyways, educated Asian American lady likes this book. So what does she have to say? A funny thing happened on the way to the digital utopia. We've begun to fall back in love with the very analog goods and ideas the tech gurus insisted that we no longer needed. Businesses that once looked outdated, from film photography to brick and mortar retail, are now springing with new life. Notebooks, records, and stationery have become cool again. Behold the Revenge of Analog. So that's the title of this book, Revenge of Analog. So David Sachs, the author, has uncovered story after story of entrepreneurs, small business owners, and even big corporations who found a market selling not apps or virtual solutions, but real, tangible things. As ebooks are supposedly remaking reading, independent bookstores have sprouted up across the country. As music allegedly migrates to the cloud, vinyl record sales have grown more than 10 times over the past decade. Even the offices of tech giants like Google and Facebook increasingly rely on pen and paper to drive their brightest ideas. So this book goes in and analyzes, as the title suggests, how a lot of these analog texts are resurging. Now, and then we have tons of rave editorial reviews. And here, let us pay attention to dialectics. So what are the two, this versus that they're saying? They're presenting a kind of digital utopia futurism versus old stuff is cool. So it's like, oh yeah, digital future cool, or this. So you could bounce back and have an endless conversation about how these things are supposedly opposed to one another. Okay, so let's just look at some of these reviews. No matter which side you're on in the debate over digital technology. So for those of you, by the way, who aren't aware of all this dialectics nonsense, do check out my stream here, Individualism and Collectivism, where I break down some of the ways in which fake and stupid debates are used to make up problems where they don't exist and get people onto stupid teams. You may enjoy my stream. Okay. End of self-promotion. So the debate over digital technology, which isn't really a debate. People are just going to keep on making it, whether or not you like it. There's no debate. Your opinion doesn't matter. What's going to happen is going to happen. There's some things you cheer you in the revenge of analog. So it's not like digital is stomping over everything, because you could chill out and listen to a record. All right, captivating. Sachs provides an insightful and entertaining account of this phenomenon, creating a powerful counter-narrative to the techno-utopian belief that we live in an ever-improving all-digital world. All right, these people are just like leaking these dialectics out of their ears. So a counter-narrative. What are the two sides that you have fighting? Oh, old stuff cool versus new stuff cool. But is that the only way you could look at stuff? Of course not. Silliness. All right, continuing. Here is a compulsively readable book after a Luddite's heart. So the Luddite stereotype is these people who smashed up factories and were anti-technology. Let's learn about the Luddites really quick. The Luddites were a secret oath-based organization. Oh, I wasn't even trying to get into secret society stuff just yet, but it looks like we're there. Of English textile workers in the 19th century, a radical faction which destroyed textile machinery. The groups are believed to have taken their name from Ned Ludd, a weaver from Anstey near Leicester. Okay, so they were anti-machines and stuff. Now I'm kind of curious about to what extent they were a secret oath-based organization. But we'll leave that for a different time. Okay, so we'll just finish this review, then we'll continue. So this person says, after a Luddite's heart. So if you're a technology hater, then this book might make you feel warm and fuzzy. Sachs isn't preaching a return to the pre-industrial age, but neither is he embracing the robot overlords. He thoughtfully, wisely, they really like that word, don't they? And honestly points out how analog experiences enhance digital creativity, and how humans benefit from what both have to offer. Essential reading. Okay, so as you can see, there's a whole bunch of establishment voices saying positive things about this book. So, among other topics, this book explores how records, board games, film photography, and other things have made a kind of comeback. So, naively, a tech utopian might say, like, in the age where we have all these, digital this and that, why would anybody care about these things? And then this book, it offers some journalism, interviewing people and telling you why. So in that sense, like, if you were interested in learning about these things, I would say that it was a pretty good book in the sense that I think the person who wrote it did a lot of like actual journalism, going down on the ground and speaking with people and stuff, which is cool. So above and beyond the things that like this book discussed, I want to also bring attention to lots of internet nostalgia revamp stuff. So like here's a site friend showed, yesterweb.org. So here let's see what sort of language they're using. The yesterweb is a community which acknowledges that today's internet is lacking in creativity, self-expression, and good digital social infrastructure. This community didn't emerge from within the tech industry, but from outside of it. It is driven by everyday users of the internet, regular people with diverse skills and interests who care about online spaces. We acknowledge that the internet is made up of human beings. Conversing online doesn't make this any different. Behind every username is a real person with their own perspective and experiences. We do not tolerate hate speech, including sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, chauvinism, and national/religious discrimination. We can do better. It's not just about nostalgia or retro aesthetics, but these interests signify that there is a need for change. Our goal is to forge a new path forward toward building and cultivating a better internet. And it looks like they got a Discord server. So I bring up this site because I think it very much falls in line with this sort of stuff of this Revenge of the Analog book, the things it discusses. But here it's not so much important the analog aspect specifically, but rather we have a general kind of I'm describing it as a nostalgia, a wish to return to the past, at least in terms of using some sorts of technology. And here, this is like digital in that it's the internet, but you'll have people that are looking at a previous state of the internet, how the internet used to be, and they want to remake that. And then we could look here. So here's just showing that I'm not making up that this is nostalgic, because like one thing about nostalgia would be, longing for and missing the past. We could look at a definition of nostalgia. So nostalgia, what is it? All right. The remembrance of good time or event that makes you happy, remembering the past. Bittersweet longing for things, persons, or situations of the past. Something like that. A New Latin from the ancient Greek nostos, returning home. Longing for home or familiar surroundings. Homesickness, bittersweet yearning for things of the past. So bittersweet implying, you don't have these things anymore, or at least in the same way. That's why you have to long for it. Otherwise, if you had it still with you, you wouldn't long for it. Or reminiscence of the speaker's childhood or younger years. The position I'm putting forth, though, is that a lot of this sort of nostalgia stuff, it doesn't even have to be like a past that you actually lived. It could even just be an idea of a past. So, for example, if there's Californians that are being nostalgic about Christmas stuff, like, a snowy, comfy opening presents under a Christmas tree sort of thing, you might have actually never had that, yet there is a sense in which people yearn or desire for that sort of thing. So that's why I titled this Nostalgia for an Unlived Past. Okay, anyways, returning to this yesterweb thing. Here, like, they have this little poll. What do you miss the most about the internet? Free software, no Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, so big social media, customizing my profile or sites, easier on anonymity, discovering cool websites, less garbage, SEO websites. So sometimes you search something and then you just get a bunch of like spammy websites that have powerful search engine optimization, so they appear at the top of the Google results, even if their info's trash. Meeting cool people. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. Virtual pet websites, e.g. Neopets. And as with many things on the internet here, they had mascot submissions for people here. I don't know what it is, but to me, it sometimes seems like furries run the internet. Is this how it is? I'll let you guys all tell me about this, if this is true or not. But here are the mascot submissions for this website, for the people of their community. They just want to make their little purple people profiles in peace. Without Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Instead, they want to make their purple people profiles being anonymous and meet cool people that also like Neopets, like they do. So, very interesting. Okay, so there is this thing going on of a kind of nostalgic reboot. I just showed a whole bunch of examples from this book and then also this Yesterweb website. So I won't go into more and more the specifics of the examples. I'll leave that up to you all to suggest if there's more particularly interesting things to look up for. Anyways, I was thinking about what is the meaning of all of this and how do we respond to this? Like, is it bad to and not helpful to even look at this stuff, or could it be useful? Because if we ask, is it a thing? Yes, it is a thing. It's a very popular aspect of, you could say, like culture creation. So if you said that you're into records, board games, film photography, or even like retro video games and stuff, this would be a very common thing to hear, especially if you're in a big city or you're working technology. Like, I'll just pull up some examples from YouTube. Like, if I go on YouTube and I search up for like vinyl records, right, then you're gonna find like tons of YouTube videos that are just oh wow, look at that algorithm. My stream came up right here. I think I'm not logged on. Wow, must be some cookie stuff. Anyways, point I was gonna make is that there's tons of videos of like people playing records and doing stuff like this. You could see this as 2 million views. So this idea of like, you know, I have my own record library and I set up a comfy space and I play old school stuff. This stuff is incredibly popular all over. This is not obscure nothing burger in terms of things that people might know about or talk about. So what is trying to be done with this, and how should we respond to it? So I'll just read a little paragraph I wrote. The main danger I see for all of us with these nostalgia reboot efforts is that of escapism. If we give up ourselves more and more to being consumed by fantasy rather than turning our attention to the present moment, where we could make a difference in our own lives and the lives of others, we become neutralized as conquered prisoners of the past or some fictional version thereof. We attempt to reject life and the pain and suffering it comes with by choosing a fake, sanitized reality. So, right, a lot of these nostalgia things, I think, are kind of traps in that if you sort of escape into this space, I mean, basically you're just being a peak consumer. You're doing nothing useful for yourself or for others. You are just you like found a comfy box and they put you away in a box. Basically, they don't need to lock you up in the FEMA camps, because you've locked yourself way up in a nostalgia camp. All right. Now, I'm not just being like a hater on these things. So I wrote this other paragraph, which I'll read. On the other hand, learning about technologies, art, culture, etc. from the past, as well as from different places, can be useful for present circumstances. So this is not an anti-nostalgia stream, the sense that I think we shouldn't study vinyl records, enjoy old school vibes, etc. Rather, we should be on the lookout for how the appeals of these things can be used to ensnare us and keep us unaware and powerless in face of threats, slander, harassment, etc. So, nostalgia for an unlived past, right? There is a lot of value, I think, that we could get from, especially people who actually put down money and take risk to like reboot a record shop and do all these cool things that we like. But you don't want to be drawn in and consumed by the fantasy, because then the tech overlords and other bad guys have totally captured you. Alright, so then I came up here with 2 examples of some very successful nostalgia baiting that has been used against my generation. So I'm a millennial. I'm talking about things that have been used to capture the attention and dollars of millennials. So 2 things, Pokemon and Star Wars. So how is Pokemon kind of sinister? I mean, it just looks like, cute cartoon fake animals, right? So what's wrong with Pokemon? So I'll just summarize it. Pokemon wastes your time and effort as you learn about fictional creatures. And going along this notion I made earlier of a sanitized reality, like I think Pokemon, for instance, you don't see them like get sick and die and all sorts of stuff. So even like if you have a pet dog or something, the aspects of having a dog could be very useful. I've heard, like growing up, I didn't have a pet cat or a pet dog, but I understand that a lot of people, their first exposure to learning about, for example, death, right? You learn about death and grieving and some things like that in a sort of light way by like your pet dog dies or something. And we could even think about this in terms of like food. So if you had to actually live and work on a farm and actually cut the head off of a chicken to know where chicken comes from, then maybe you would approach food and meat and stuff a lot differently. Even going fishing, like I remember I had to like kill a pet fish before in some capacity. It was like, yeah, it's a living thing, and now it's dead. So to actually see all of this and the kind of, you could say, the pain and the price that comes with life is it's very instructive if you want to see things more clearly, to understand how stuff works. Now, on the other hand, you have like Pokemon, and it's sanitized. You get rid of all of these harder to stomach, painful aspects of enjoying like pets or something, for example. It's just because Pokemon are designed, you get all the colors and the flashy stuff, the variety. You got to catch them all, right? So if you have actually a pet dog or 2 pet dogs, the more pets you add, then the more money, time, and resources it's going to take to actually take care of your pets. But then one thing about like Pokemons or even like Neopets or something, you get more and more of them. Well, you might be able to do that with basically no real cost on your part. So Pokemon and stuff like this, it's kind of anti-educational in that as you get used to this sort of sanitized reality it presents you with, it makes you used to getting like, the pleasure of having a variety of cool animal things and stuff like that, without recognizing the pain and the actual costs that often come with taking upon yourself more beings under your care. I don't know how to say it, but I think you get the basic idea. So Pokemon's interesting. One very successful Pokemon thing that came out was this Pokemon Go game. So through the vector Pokemon, the appeal of Pokemon I think is clear. A lot of kind of cute creatures. It's just cute. It's just fun. And you could get all this variety through investing very little effort or anything. So easy sell. But then what is Pokemon used to do? One of the things is it's a vector for the technocratic overlords to make you grow more accustomed and used to new technology. So right now, for instance, Mark Zuckerberg has Metaverse. You get tons of people like laughing and making fun of like Mark Zuckerberg and saying like, oh, you know, he's so lame. We would never do that. I like to say he's a favorite punching bag for the tech people. Now, on the other hand, suppose Pokemon or someone comes up with some game that you play in virtual reality. Then suddenly people aren't punching and laughing at Mark Zuckerberg anymore. Instead, they themselves are running to try and use whatever the new technology the game has. So, like Pokemon Go, I think was a perfect example. Let's pretend Mark Zuckerberg tried to roll out his AR thing. Like, oh yeah, you know, you could have collaborative spaces to connect with people, right? If he did that, you know, a lot of criticism. People would laugh at him and call him mean names. But look at these Pokemon trainers, you know. If Pokemon does it, the real world. So we have a business guy here. It looks like a Japanese. He's got his Pokeball thing. Got people of different ethnicities. And lo and behold, person wearing glasses is able to see Charizard. Asian man, Pokeball. Black guy, Pokeball. And then they're interfacing with their augmented reality. So they're looking out, whether on an urban street or in some field or something, and they're basically being like digital schizos, right? They're thinking that stuff exists that doesn't exist, but because it exists in their handheld monolith black cube devices, that is smartphones, then this is a completely normal thing to do. So Pokemon is like the vector by which this stuff gets accepted, right? Mark Zuckerberg, someone else does it, even like Bill Gates. Oh, not so cool. But on the one hand, you have like Pokemon, which is like fun. And then if you're required to use any sort of VR or AR at your job, like, oh yeah, at our company, we use Microsoft Teams. Then that would be another way. So there's money involved. So money or kind of fun, amusement, escape. These will be the more likely vectors in which a lot of these technologies are brought out to the public and people accept them, rather than like, you know, why only like a super nerd would buy like an Oculus headset or something. It takes a more specialized, dedicated otaku customer to do that sort of thing. Whereas, like, I know all sorts of people that would play Pokemon Go, and a lot of people very, very young as well. Like, you know, kids below age 13, right? Because parents will look at this sort of stuff and just say, oh, yeah, it's just fun. It's just Pokemons. And lo and behold, by getting used to a lot of stuff like this, that is how culture gets created. And I'll just I'll add on that. I mean, Pokemon specifically has been very interesting. When I was growing up, for example, Pokemon cards were everywhere, and you could see how like something like Pokemon cards, trading card games, it gets people primed for like NFTs or whatever that's coming out. So I'm actually just going to search, let's say, like Pokemon products. What are some various things that Pokemon has rolled out? Oh yeah, of course. So the video games and Pokemon have always been associated. So like a Nintendo Switch, things like that. Some pajamas, a Nerf gun. I was trying to search more for like big product releases they've done. All right, let's look at the Pokemon Center official website. Pokemon Winter. So they got their branded merchandise for everything. You can enjoy a Masonic chessboard with Pokemon. You can wear your funsy onesie. Okay. Anyways, I think that's enough on Pokemon. I'll leave it to the commenters and others to share interesting info tidbits on Pokemon. But Pokemon, as I was saying, I think it represents a very sanitized kind of collector pet sort of thing, and for that reason, it's been extremely popular. And I think like Pokemon has been one of the ways in which like a lot of females have gotten into gaming, that sort of thing. Same thing with this other game, like Animal Crossing. So these sort of like cute, kind of casual games, Nintendo, especially the Asia people, but not just the Asia people, all sorts of people. These fun, sanitized fantasies have been a powerful vector for getting people used to all sorts of new ways of doing things. All right. The second thing I wanted to talk about here is this Baby Yoda creepy creature thing. So when I first heard of Baby Yoda got pushed all over the media. So here, like, let's just look at some video titles. Baby Yoda Grogu, maybe that's his name. Best cute scenes, Mandalorian season 2. Best Baby Yoda scenes, etc., etc. So this thing got really popular, and yes, here you could see, oh look, it's a tough soldier Mandalorian guy, but then actually, you know, he has a pretty soft, kind heart, because this black-eyed, demonic, goblin-looking thing is his child, in some sense. So he could have all these
no getting out of the cart this time
kind of videos that are just supposed to be fun, innocent, cute. But you could ask yourself, like, what is the purpose of these things? And what do cultural objects, like 21st century cultural icon, whatever you want to call them, like Baby Yoda, what does that get people for? So Pokemon, I was saying, is kind of like a fake version of pets in a way. Baby Yoda, he's kind of like a fake version of children in a way, because obviously he's like Baby Yoda, right? So it's like young child. Yeah, so here I'll just read this. I haven't read this before, so new info to me. Grogu, known to many simply as the Child, was a male Force-sensitive Jedi and Mandalorian foundling. So is that their like kind of orphanage or something? Okay, yeah, children who are adopted by the warriors. So the Mandalorian warriors might adopt and raise up some child thing. Okay, so Jedi temple, such and such. That's his kind of backstory. And then, obviously, you know, here's like a carriage thing. And then it's like tough soldier caring for alien looking thing. Contrast, cold steel metal. Then what are you supposed to feel warm and fuzzy for? Like the weirdo green guy. Here he is being all small. So is he using the force choke? He's choking someone with the force or something. With a claw-like gesture, Grogu begins to strangle Cara Dune through the force. So maybe this little thing has actually some pretty big powers. And then, of course, you're going to get lots of different artworks and stuff of fans praising this thing and marketing their various like Lego and other parties that are normalizing and really mainstreaming this thing. So of all the things to mainstream, like why would you mainstream some weirdo goblin looking thing? So let's just pull out some pictures just for some contrast. So if you aren't familiar with the Graylians, like these creepy things, for whatever reasons, when people have been talking about aliens and stuff, the aliens, they continue to have the same sort of form. And look at the eyes here. There's like just dark, black, creepy eyes. Then this Grogu Baby Yoda thing has got the same eyes as the Graylians. Now, the Graylians don't have big ears like him. But like, let's look at, for instance, like a goblin. Do goblins have certain ears. So he's like a hybrid between like a goblin and a Graylian. And then somehow you're supposed to feel affection and get attached to this weird non-human thing. Like, you're supposed to think it's cute. Okay, and here's like a little quote: "Take care of this little one, or maybe it'll take care of you." So maybe that's a play. I haven't watched the Mandalorian series, but maybe he's like actually really powerful. So I don't know what other way to put it besides it's like, you know, why don't you become like a weird single warrior male and care tenderly for like a little demon incarnate or something? It's very off-putting to me. That's what it seems like. So if anybody begs to differ or has a different analysis or something, you know, you could give me some pushback on it. But to me, it seems through top-down media culture, all this stuff, and relying too on the nostalgia of Star Wars, we're getting some pretty creepy pasta stuff being presented to the world. And totally mainstream. Like if you go into, let's say, like a Target store or something, and you look at the toys, I bet you'll find like a bunch of Baby Yoda toys. Oh, another thing to look at too is like the sort of shape and feature of a lot of toys and dolls have changed. So like, let's just go to Target.com and let's look at what sort of toys they have to offer. They have to show. Okay, so look, I didn't even have to search it. Right here, right on the front of the Target website. Look at these toys that they're selling. So these things, they don't look human. They look like creepy, like Graylian demon spawn. I don't know what other way to put it. But it's not like a just, you know, it's just like, this isn't what people look like. They're these weird alien things. I won't get into all the symbolism of what pink means and the whole race element for this stuff too, but that's just to say, yeah, these things, they call them crybabies. Like, what Why would you have a kid play with that? What is that? What is this supposed to do? Let's look at for kids 5 through 7. What are they doing these days? Let's look at dolls. Okay, look here too. We have the same creepy black lifeless eyes. Just okay, see, look here. Let's see, it zooms in. Not very human. Almost like this style, the chibi style from the Japanimations. People came up with these little chibi figures. So then you have like the plastic chibi version for the West, and then let's bring up Baby Yoda again. And then similar to Baby Yoda, it's like, oh, it's cute. It has these big eyes. But those are not eyes of a normal person. You know, it's like, is it an old face or a young face? It's very hard. Okay, Hello brings up Bratz from the 2000s. Yes, let's look at an image of the Bratz. Passion for fashion. Let's look at Wikipedia. Okay. Bratz is an American product line of fashion dolls and merchandise manufactured by MGA Entertainment. And here are some of the Bratz dolls. So we could highlight some of the features of these dolls for the stream. So you could say, what is the purpose of like Bratz dolls? What are they getting people ready for? So some features, of course, the faces don't look like normal human, right? It's kind of like how anime and stuff is all distorted. So this is not Japanimation, but you know, it's a toy. And then I don't know which demographic you're targeting with these, but you know, are you telling like, you know, 5-year-old, 7-year-old people to put on all this like eye makeup, get your hair done in a fancy way, do exposed midriff and short skirts and all these things? So I'll leave out an analysis of like feminist movement and all that. I'm not gonna give any take on that here, besides to say that clearly these dolls are pro people becoming a certain sort of way. So it's getting kids at like a young age to be used to, oh yeah, you know, I want to dress this way, I want to look this way, and so on and so forth. Hello says, I think there was some controversy over how super skinny they are, kind of like Barbie dolls. They make girls want to think that's the cool look. Right, so we could look at this angle. It's this whole plastic style, right? If people are aspiring to a literal image that you can't do without all sorts of cosmetics and extreme efforts in order to achieve a certain aesthetic, then will a lot of people be very unhappy with how they look and stuff? I think, like, naturally so. I don't think that's even controversial to say. Okay, so here, like, someone made a contrast of, like, if here is how the default Bratz doll will look, then the doll face to the right looks more normal. Like, this is what a normal, a more normal looking, like, just normal girl would look like. So you could see, like, no eye makeup, like, eyebrows aren't, like, super thin and manicured, don't have these big painted lips, right? This is just what, if this doll were made to look more like a normal person, this would be a less weird New World Order creepy doll. So let's go look. I think that this company, this LOL Surprise, is the same company that did the Bratz, but now this is their current iteration. of that, and my goodness. So this is their idea of like cool, and this is their male. So guys, how does their male look? He's got like some hip hop vibes, some chains, some dual colored hair. No face tats yet. Alright, it's wearing some like shorts on a skateboard. And now, mind you, I found these by looking through the ages 5 to 7 category. Here. Alright, we'll just look at a couple more things before moving on. Okay, so you could get people used to van life, live in the mobile pod, care clinic playset, dream closet. So the Barbie brand still going. Just home. Trailer playset. Okay, got some weird fairy stuff here. Hatchimals Pixie Crystal Flyers. So did they like hatch in eggs? Are they like various... Oh, Hello shares a word. Hype beast is the word you're looking for. He's a hype beast. Okay, I learned a new word today. Let's look at what a hype beast looks like. Reaper says, why exactly are we saying silly toys are NWO dolls? Well, if you assume that they're just silly, and you don't want to believe that things are made in a particular way for particular reasons, and you just assume that it's just silly, then you'll get exactly what you're looking for. I can't there's no way I could prove to you that they aren't just silly, if that's how you view it. Alright, hype beast. Okay, actually, yeah, hello, I think you've sent me the hype beast before. I should have remembered this. So hype beast, generally described as someone who wears expensive clothing or participates in high fashion with the express purpose of impressing others and showing off their wealth. Yeah, so we could see how even toys targeting very young kids, elementary school kids, they're telling people that it's cool to be a hype beast. Hype beast. So, what are some features of hype beast? Looks like they got a lot of colors. It's a common thing. Maybe some words or texts. I don't know what sort of pictures and images they have on them. Let's see. Hello says, back on topic though, there is the notion of Americana. For some reason, it refers mainly to the 50s. A good example are the Fallout series of games. And Mintel says, I think the point is that they're not just silly, but menacing in their effects on children. Yeah, what I'm saying is, like, if you took a moment to screen and inspect these things, like, I wouldn't want to give my kids any of those things. Whereas on the other hand, let's just bring this into Hello's comment on the 50s. Then I think to a lot of people, an era like the 50s represents relative just prosperity of normal stuff in America. So I'm just going to search 50s USA. So a lot of people, rather than, promoting like the hype beast image, then they might say this would look like a normal kind of happy ideal that I would want, like sunny street, just families, some cool styled cars. A lot of people, they might want to return to a world with this sort of aesthetics versus the hype aesthetics. Okay, Reaper says Americana doesn't refer to the 50s. Yeah, we could look at, if I Google Americana, what might I find? The point here being is that I think that the appeal of a lot of stuff for people looking at different eras, different aesthetics, different places and stuff is because the current thing that's being sold at like your Target shelves and stuff, I mean, it just looks ultra creepy and sinister, menacing, right? So then people look elsewhere. So they might turn to like what I was calling nostalgia here, right? Looking for old, different eras in order to find some sort of model to emulate. Hello says those cars are so aesthetic. Yes, they are. They are aesthetic. There was like if you guys don't know, Sam Hyde Chinese cars. Sam Hyde, he's a comedian, but he had this sketch where he was talking about how a lot of modern cars, they basically look like computer mice. So it's like, if Chinese people design a car, what would it look like? It'd be like this. I'm holding up my computer mouse. Not a bad mouse, by the way. It's a pretty good mouse. It has a wheel that you could spin. So when you're scrolling, it's not like you just go spin. Spin. Whoa. Cool mouse. Anyways, the point was, yes, the aesthetics for a lot of stuff has changed, particularly as the materials has changed. So going back to this relates to the toys and stuff. Well, we could see how with the advent of a lot of plastics and things like that, then people would do a lot of weird new forms simply because the medium of the plastic allowed them to do something that was previously impossible with, say, wood or something. Now with plastic, you could do all sorts of new, different forms that wouldn't have been possible in the past. All right. So here, is this like, does your Tide Pod hatch a pixie fairy? And once again, these weird eyes and the pink hair and lipstick. So why would you want something like this to capture the imagination of your child? I ask you that question. Is it just silly and fun, or is this sort of stuff something that could actually be quite harmful? I lean on saying I think it's not good. We should avoid bad boycott. All right, let's return here. So I gave two examples, Pokemon Go and Baby Yoda. One other parallel I wanted to draw. So you could look at like Pokemon as like fake sanitized version of pets. Baby Yoda is like weird version of child. And then there's this phenomenon of the anime waifu that I'll bring up here. So I'm on Urban Dictionary. So the term waifu is a word that is used prevalently in the manga, cartoon, and video game fandoms. The origin of the word comes from the katakana word for wife, waifu. So waifu is used to refer to a fictional girl or woman, usually in anime, manga, or video games, that you have sexual attraction to and you would even marry. And then it looks like this advanced Urban Dictionary person even wrote a sentence in Japanese. 私は今日結婚しました。これは私の妻キコです。So if you take your weebdom to advanced levels, you might actually learn Japanese to learn the language of your waifu in sub or even no subs rather than dub. And then there's this, the other equivalent for female to male would be husbandle for like female fans who might like their fictional male partner. Okay, here's another definition. If you're friends with a weeb, you probably heard this phrase often. A waifu can be a human or an anime character. Waifus are usually attractive and are one's best girl real life waifus are what weebs call their girlfriend or platonic lovers. Another related meme is like, your waifu is trash. So people will come out with a they'll become attached to who they say their waifu is, maybe like starting ironically, but then they'll become serious about it, and they'll say like, oh yeah, you know, my waifu is this character from this anime, and then people might trash talk your anime waifu, and it's kind of like a ironic, joking insult. Yeah, so this, I won't read the bad words, but online expression used by anime fans who insult or make snide remarks towards each other. And right, so of course I was looking at Baby Yoda as example of fake weird child thing, Pokemon as pets. Then like anime waifu, like obviously that would be like your wife. It could be something too, like Cortana from Halo. Somebody might say that she's their waifu. Alright, Hello says, out of interest, is it anime that led you to start learning Japanese? Not joking. I know 4 people that started for that reason. Only one succeeded and he moved to Japan. He also brought a Japanese Filipino girl home when he came back when the pandemic began. He lived the white guy dream, basically. No, actually for me, the main reason I started to learn Japanese, I learned Chinese. I started learning Chinese first because like I'm Chinese American by background. And then there was a bunch of Korean people by me, you know, some nice looking girls near me, also Korean, you know, so I learned some Korean for social reasons and because it was interesting to me. And then also I was involved in like a reformed evangelical-ish Korean Christian groups. So also learning Korean too was useful sometimes for that. So I learned Korean mainly because there was a bunch of Korean people around me, and they were some of the highest achievers. So I wanted to learn, you know, how they work, what makes them tick. Japanese is similar in grammar to Korean, but then you have the characters like in Chinese. So I studied Japanese. Basically, I was like, if I'm learning a bunch of Chinese and Korean anyways, I might as well like learn some Japanese. It probably won't be that difficult for me, given that I have experience with these other 2 languages. And then eventually just through like student organizations and stuff, I did Japanese stuff. Like I was one of the leaders of the Japanese Conversation Club at my university. So I actually I have not really actually been that interested in Japanese stuff myself, but I put in many hours and a lot of work into learning Japanese stuff because it's an East Asian language, and I had started studying other East Asian languages, and then I just kept on doing it because sometimes you just continue to do things because you started to do them. So for that reason, yeah, I do try to keep up my Japanese and learn a little bit here and there, but like I would sometimes I would actually kind of annoy my like anime fan friends because I would watch like a series if someone recommended it to me, but often it would take like a really long time. Like they would recommend an anime or something, and then 2 months later I would be like, oh yeah, I finished it. I watched like 1 episode a day. And, you know, finally I'm done. And then I would be talking to people who would just, like, sit down and watch, like, an entire season of a show, like, in 1 day or over a weekend or something. Whereas I would go very slow. So I'm kind of like a slow boy with a lot of stuff. It takes me a while to get through things and to learn things. But when I do, then I think about it a lot. Like, I don't... If somebody tells me to read something or to look at something, if they're serious, I would say I take things seriously that people tell me to look at, and I will form, you know, a real view, and I'll be able to talk about it for the rest of my life. Like I could talk to you guys about Naruto or whatever that I read or watched a bunch of So, but in terms of just quantity, I was never I was never drawn to like binge anime or manga or stuff like I know a lot of people are. Ella says, sorry, I know it's off topic, but I have the perception white men specifically really fetishize Asian girls. Okay, Cupid data backs us up. So yeah, I mean, I believe this. Yeah, I will not study the preferences of white nerds. But that's to say, yeah, I mean, you probably have a lot of data to back up the claim that you're making. Probably true. Cool. Okay, so let's get slightly back on topic. Okay, so nostalgia for an unlived past, and then we talked about we got into the waifu discussion, just saying like another instance of which we have a culturally emergent phenomenon of like a substitute for a normal thing, whether it's spouse, pet, children. Then here we have like weird substitutes for stuff. I was sent this interesting article by a friend. I'll bring it up. And this is going to relate directly to this nostalgia reboot topic I have here. So let me just read this first paragraph. This fellow Drew Austin, looks like he writes a blog. He's an author. Okay, a year ago I tweeted that when Netflix drops a big new show, quote, it feels like a software update is being pushed to everyone's brain. I'd recently noticed how the Queen's Gambit had suddenly caused everyone to start talking about chess. So let's just look at the Queen's Gambit, like the poster or something like that. Yeah, so you could see here we have Netflix and chess, looks like some drugs, and probably the protagonist's lead actress person. Okay. So everyone started to talk about chess as if the game itself was something we'd all just found out about. So why all of a sudden are all sorts of people talking about chess? Well, because Netflix released something like the Queen's Gambit. What that moment revealed to me was Netflix's ability to program cultural discourse in a relatively direct way. You realize that a certain topic or event starts coming up frequently in conversations and social media posts. Fire Festival, the 90s Chicago Bulls, chess, and then find out the topic is the subject of a Netflix blockbuster, living rent-free in the hive mind, actually getting paid to live there. Even now, but especially during the pandemic, there are only a few primary sources of large-scale collective experience upstream of Twitter and TikTok, and Netflix has emerged as one of the most potent. In a sense, the streaming service is merely carrying the torch for 20th century mass media, which had a more comprehensive grip on the mainstream cultural agenda. But the phenomenon is more striking against the backdrop of today's fragmented digital culture, serving as a prominent counterweight to the internet's long tail. Meanwhile, former touchstones like SNL and the New York Times are now generators of chum for social media consumption and that meta commentary as much as they are primary sources of content. Okay, so I think you could understand, just say Netflix and stuff, they're able to make things trend in real life conversations as well as in digital conversations. So you have a show that brings to your attention chess, then all of a sudden, is it any surprise that you have all sorts of people talking about chess? Now, the topic of this stream, nostalgia for an unlived past, right? What I'm suggesting is, lots of these things like records, board games, chess, whatever it is. You could keep a constant stream of just updating and getting people to be interested in these various things that in many cases don't really do any good for you. So they could, like, I'm not saying they're bad or they're useless in of themselves, but if you keep everyone just on a kind of hamster wheel, always just looking at this next thing, then that is what I said. We become neutralized, conquered prisoners of the past, or some fictional version thereof, through which media, Netflix and stuff, you could say, what is the mechanics by which how Netflix or someone keeps people just constantly engaged and just, you talk about how do we pacify the population? How do we just make sure everybody is, totally under control? Well, this would be the way in which you, one of the techniques you could use in order to keep people constantly occupied, kind of in a dreamlike state, not engaging in reality, but instead spiraling into tons of different distractions and just being comfortable in a fake universe. Then lo and behold, right? This experimental jet set blog post thing, I thought did a good job of spelling out just how that might happen through Netflix, and how, lo and behold, people are talking about chess. Very interesting. Just Sun said, stop entertaining yourself. Watch Alan's stream instead. Oh, thank you for the plug. Yes. Come gather round. Let us discuss the events and symbols of our world together. Hello says, I disagree that board games are a return to an old thing, both from a volume sales point of view, but also as someone agreed in game design, if you caught that comment. Yeah, so I would say, Hello gave me a little bit of pushback that with board games, for instance, you don't necessarily have like a nostalgic return to the past. Like one thing that's happening is there's a lot of new board games being developed. So how could it be nostalgic? Whereas like here, somebody sent me this game recently popular, Ticket to Ride, about making railroad tracks. So it's a new game. So like strictly speaking, the nostalgia doesn't even have to be for like an actual past, but maybe better than nostalgia would be like escape to something. And this unlived past example I give, it could be like a constructed past, but something about it is the modern world is fast and scary, things like that. So how are we able to create some sort of space or thing in which people could they could escape the terrors of the modern world by retreating to a simpler place in some sense? Okay, Reaper says, you're saying people are conquered prisoners of the past. Does that include people that became supporters of Orange Man when he invoked references to America's past? Yes, Reaper, that's a very good example. Let's look at like the slogan. So the MAGA slogan, right? Whoever came up with this, they're a kind of evil genius. But like the Make America Great Again campaign slogan, right? A button from Ronald Reagan's 1980, let's make America great again, right? So with Orange Man, with Trump, right? How do you neutralize a large portion of America? Well, if they're just being like Orange Man's cheerleaders for free, basically they're all just like, you're wasting your time and you're investing your attention and your effort watching a show, which, like, let's assume that your vote does count. If you submit a vote, like, maybe that's one thing you could do. But besides that, it's like your ballot is cast. What else could you do? There's not much more for you to do. Yet this whole MAGA LARPing and stuff became quite a, like, here is a popular culture section. Let's see. Anyways, let's just say that tons of businesses and all sorts of grifters, and you could even say Orange Man himself did a lot of grifting around this topic of MAGA. So yes, I think, Reaper, that Orange Man, yes, he really did capture a lot of people with the MAGA campaign slogan, whatever you want to call it. And that is the same sort of idea that I'm talking here about, like capturing hipsters and stuff. It's the same way you could capture deplorables just as you capture highly educated contributors to National Public Radio. You could capture all sorts of audiences. All right, Hello says, I think it's a more positive trend than the video games which they substitute. They bring people together when they might otherwise play a game remotely. And Hello says, I am not totally on the same page, but it's worth exploring the massive mainstream rise of fantasy and science fiction. Yeah, that could be another topic to explore. Look at, maybe contemporary fantasy and sci-fi. And also maybe look at some of the differences between fantasy and sci-fi. That might be cool to do. Okay. Oh, another, speaking of board games, I just wanted to share a video that got massively ratioed on YouTube, but started to kind of meme. Was the CIA recruitment ad. So they had this series called Humans of CIA, because remember, feds are people too. By the way, if there's any feds that are listening to this stream, I don't hate you or anything. I think sometimes, the federal agencies and stuff, they're up to no good things, but you guys are people too. So please don't ban my channel. We could become friends instead, just we're all in this world together. So I'm not hating on feds. If sometimes I go a little bit hard on feds. Well, it's, feds have a lot of privileges and stuff that I don't have. Feds have more responsibilities than me for a lot of things in the world. So no hate to the feds out there. Anyways, I bring this Humans of CIA video up because one of the things is this guy's talking about how the CIA, what they do sometimes is very similar to playing games. So he's showing off his little game collection in the CIA library, talking about computer-based training and how, playing these little games could get you good at soft skills that are good for Fed works. Feds, they just like to solve a lot of little puzzles, whether it's to get into your server or to say the right combinations of phrases to have somebody give you their password or something. Anyways, interesting relation I found to the board game stuff. So the connection too, I think, another angle to look at is one reason that board games and chess and stuff like this might be popular is because in the technological society. So I'm not going to go over this whole thing. You could view my other streams if you're interested in learning more about the technological society. But in our society today, we're seeing lots and lots of more systematization of lots of areas of things. So let's just say you buy a plane ticket or something. There's procedures that you have to go to. So when you buy a plane ticket, how does your request, the payment, how does all these things come together? Lots of complex systems with a lot of automation that are involved for anything. Now you can ask, what is the reason why that stuff is this way? I think that one of the answers to this is that the more automated and you could say enumerated processes become, so you don't have unknown human factors, but instead you have discrete choices to do everything, then what this does is it allows you to open up your processes to be made more efficient by automation. So it's just like if you have a teleprompter or a customer support, whatever, and they kind of follow a decision tree and always respond in the same way, you're having a person currently do that role, but the objective is you're coming up with a system that eventually you could make like a computer do it, and then only in rare cases for very difficult problems route the call to a person, because this could save you a bunch of costs by automatically giving support and answering questions that a computer-based system could do for, and then only having human intervention when you really need it. So I bring that up to say, like board games, like chess as an example, one of the reasons in which it's very helpful let's just say from a governance perspective, to get a lot of people thinking in terms of games, moves, stuff like this, is that you get people used to the idea of creating and optimizing systems. Because when you're playing a board game or something, oftentimes what you're doing is you're looking for a way to find a winning strategy of some kind. So I brought up, for example, this Defunct Land channel, and where is it? Can I find? Yeah, the Fast Pass issue. I showed this video on a previous stream, but you could look at how this is set up as a kind of game. So what the game is in this video that they're talking about, right? You set up like an amusement park. What the game is how do I like optimize guest wait time and stuff to deal with some guest satisfaction, something, right? But you set things up as a game, and then you try to like minimize wait time and do all these things by playing within the rules, setting up certain systems, and building models. And then once you build a model, you think it'll work, then you could actually try and you could roll out that system in an actual park. So in the same way, you could see like you get a lot of people used to playing board games or video games, liking that sort of work, then ultimately those people will be prepared with the sort of skills that you would want if you want to dump them out and have them work on these systems that eventually you'll want to automate in some capacity. So, let's see. Hello says... Oh no, let's start with... I'm just catching up on chat. Okay, Hello says, literary fiction is massively on the decline by comparison. I think he means to fantasy and sci-fi. Okay, so we could contrast that with verse literary fiction. Not exactly on how these are distinguished. Reaper says, what would happen if I captured all the people with nostalgia for mechanical keyboards? Could I run for office? If so, which one? I think your office would be pretty loud if everybody was using a mechanical keyboard. Hello says, while self-help is basically carrying the book industry, non-fiction like biographies also do reasonably well. Yeah, so a lot of people, you could say, why would people buy self-help and biographies? I would suggest that these sorts of books people buy because they're interested in improving their lot in real life, so to speak. So fantasy sci-fi people might engage in more as a form of like escapism or expanding their brain, something like that. Whereas the purpose of doing a self-help or non-fiction book might be quite transparently tied with how could you work up your way and be more successful in your current position. So even like biographies, for instance, like if I were like let's say I'm a physics student, then I go and I read some like Carl Sagan and some popular science popularizer people and read about life of Nikola Tesla, stuff like this. Then I think that reading biographies and stuff like that, it would be directly applicable if I'm trying to make more engaging lectures, things like that. And the self-help, of course, like people trying to get more organized and all that stuff. Okay, Reaper says, will you say on video that you are not a U.S. Fed? Yes, I'm not a U.S. Fed. Hello says, regarding feds, the only question is when Alan's email signature will start to resemble Richard Stallman's ridiculously obnoxious one. Actually, I am not familiar with what his says. Richard Stallman email signature. That sounds fun. Reaper says, oh, the CIA looks like a Montessori school full of D&D. Okay, do we get to see what his signature is? So here it looks like Richard Stallman is just telling people, Skype, no way, don't use Skype. That's a non-free freedom denying software, use Ekuga or an ordinary phone call. Does he have anything that's more colorful? Oh, here we go. NSA and FBI agents reading my email. Consider whether defending the U.S. Constitution against all enemies, foreign or domestic, requires you to follow Snowden's path. Oof. Calling out people with the big question. And, big if they're actually reading all his emails. That's interesting. Hello says, self-help is definitely a book for being on the hamster wheel. Nonfiction can either or, but I think it is more for hobbies. As for biographies, they tend to be musicians and athletes. Okay, yeah, that would make sense. So, yeah, that would kind of go against the claim I made that maybe people are looking at those for practical reasons. Maybe it's just, oh, yeah, I'm interested in these people. Like musicians and athletes, of course, entertainment figures. They channel different parts of society, and the rise and fall of self-help has left many people exhausted. There's also no evidence they work. Right, so you don't want to just choose any self-help book. Maybe you have a friend that used a self-help book, and they actually got a lot of results. Then you might choose to follow a path that you think will work. But, just choosing some random self-help book because it might have some knowledge nugget somewhere, that doesn't seem like a too good of a plan. Okay, Hella says his signature, Richard Stallman's at the top. All right. What's the president of the Free Software Foundation, his address, and then the bit about freedom denying and... Yeah, I think we read his signature. I don't see what I'm missing. Okay, Hello says literally anyone other than RMS would be banned from the list. Yeah, he now puts that at the top of every email. Okay. I don't know if... personally, I don't think that just repeating something like that will make it more effective. But I don't know. Maybe RMS knows a lot better about how this stuff works than I do. He certainly has more experience. All right. So, Okay, so I'll just read my little final blurb here, because I want to emphasize I'm not just like saying, oh yeah, don't listen to records and be a hipster. That's stupid. Like, that's not the point of this stream. Rather, we're trying to look at current society, look at all these patterns that we're seeing, and then try to not fall into the traps set before us, and also to make use of that which is useful. So here's my ending blurb. Nostalgia isn't bad insofar as memories of things past or the rediscovery of past arts, crafts, etc. can help us do better in our present. And then I give my example here, like retro computing. You can see I'm using this old Vim text editor up here. And one of the reasons that I like to use this, and I'll probably continue to use it, is by studying old examples, oftentimes in simpler, more well-contained systems than like Microsoft Word might move this toolbar and change this hotkey and change this and that all the time. By sort of going back to something that's more stable and well-established, it could be very liberating that you just learned one thing, and if you take the time to learn it better and discover new properties and stuff about it, then that could be cool. And same thing with like film photography. I gave this example. Like, it takes more money to like shoot film than it does to do digital. So why would anyone do film? Well, one of the reasons you might do film is because that actual cost might help you do a better job at developing as an artist, as a photographer, because you have to be more invested with each shot. Then you might be a lot more intentional about what you're doing. So those are just two examples of how in digital world, a lot of stuff is just free. You get unlimited tries, so on and so forth. But if instead of doing 3D modeling, you're actually making a clay sculpture, then maybe you take a lot more time and care in what you're doing, and you're more deliberate about how you practice and stuff. So the digital tools, the modern ways of doing things, I think a lot of the time they give us too much abundance in a sense. Whereas if we turn to older ways of doing things, there's a lot of lessons to be learned. So nostalgia for the past, in the sense that if we look at how old methods of doing things were actually better than new methods in terms of how they train us and develop our skills and things like that, then I think that there's nothing wrong with like learning about records or whatever. It could be good. Another example, board games offer a fun or interactive way to learn about various problem spaces. So I showed that like train game Ticket to Ride could teach you about geography and trains and so on. Another fun game I found is someone made this game called Illuminati, the Game of Conspiracy. So maybe you could go ahead and you could play this game, and you could learn about some things you might want to look out for. You might want to learn about some stuff and ask, is it just a game, or are the global groups like the UN, what are they really doing? So a game could be a very fun and interesting way in order to introduce you to some new problem space that maybe you haven't thought about exploring, or maybe you're required to newly enter. Then you could learn a little bit more of what it's about by playing a game that maybe somebody that is familiar with that has done. I'll give an example too of this sort of thing, like on the Steam store. Let's see, I'll search like Steam programming games. Like if you want to learn more about technology and computers, like on Steam, I've seen various games. Where's that one that was there's like an electric engineering game. Circuit, should I search for? Not like trains, whatever. Anyways, the point is that like with video games too, then people will come up with various simulators for different sorts of industries and stuff, whether it's building cities, being an electrical engineer, whatever it is. And a game, maybe you don't want to put down thousands of dollars and get really invested into learning about something, but you just want to learn the basics and have an experience for what it might actually be like to explore some area. Then games and things could be a fun way to do that, and also to learn something where you meet someone that's in the industry. They'll be like, how did you learn all these things? It's like, well, I learned about being a truck driver through a truck driver simulator. And actually, I learned a lot about what it's like to be a trucker. So in that sense, games could be a very fun and inexpensive way to learn a whole bunch. So we could learn from the past, or not even the past, but just different places that people might do escapism to get to, and you could learn useful stuff for the present. I think that's my main normative. What I'm saying, that's what I will tell myself to do. And the danger, though, to look out for is when nostalgia becomes some sort of type of escapism that's actually detrimental to you and actually waste your time and resources, as opposed to being something useful by which you maybe will connect with people, have a board game night or something. I'm not saying any of those things are you shouldn't do them or they're bad, right? Instead, we should look at stuff and how it could be useful to us, and not let the vampiric corporations suck life force out of us in ways in which they might. All right, Hello says, let's see, just imagining the NSA man on the GNU mailing list. So we're talking about RMS and his wacky signature having an existential crisis. So yes, this RMS, we'll look at RMS programmer, now most known for being associated with the free software movement. He's kind of a wizard-looking fellow. Let's see. And then he was calling out the feds on if they're protecting the Constitution in his email signature. That's what Hello is talking about here. Hello says, my interest in classic software is because they had no need to follow a UI standard. Many conventions have been created for how we interact with software, but Vim, so Vim's the program I'm using here with this text editor. But Vim is so different just because it's old. Yeah, so like if I just click on this top half, my cursor doesn't move there. I have to like match a key combination in order to move. So the way in which I'm interacting with this program is very different from a typical computer app. Hello says, I reckon there's a grand theory about how abstractions and improvements lead us to forget old methods or why we do things the way we do, even when they underpin our current methods. I wonder if there will be a day, for example, where writing to a terminal and refreshing the screen like VI does will no longer be known, and we'll have to reverse engineer it to understand how. Yeah, I mean, I'll just say about software generally, right? Everybody, if you use a computer, you're interacting with software, but everybody who uses software is engaging it on a different level, right? So this software, this like Vim editor that I'm using here, then probably only like programmers and sysadmins or like just serious hobbyists into retro computing in some way would be aware or know how to use this sort of software. If you just like send emails and stuff, you probably wouldn't be interested in this. You would have to have some interest in software. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't know about it. In this year, in 2021, in the past, maybe this would be the only choice that you have. But like that's to say, you know, I'm using this Vim software, and I know some things about how to use it, but I don't really know anything about like you know, operating systems, or even if you ask me to like name a bunch of the differences about how like Windows and Linux are different under the hood. All that sort of stuff. Like, I don't know. I only know how to use a handful of programs. That's what I do. And so my software knowledge stops at kind of application level. And like working on web programming and stuff, I'll learn how to do a bunch of like JavaScript and stuff like that. But part of the objective of what people have been trying to do with software is if I develop web software, it would run. It's supposed to run the same whether I'm running it on Windows, Linux, or whatever. That's the software abstraction that they're trying to do. So I think like yeah, it's already the case that a lot of people who work on computers and stuff every day, right? They only understand the layer that they're working at. They don't understand lower than they're doing about the specifics of the machines. Yeah, there's a friend of this show. He hasn't been back for a while, but he was talking about how if you wanted to understand like embedded systems and these sorts of things better, one thing to do might be to get like a Arduino. So I used Arduino here. We'll look at the Arduino. And then try to do something like program a digital display just with LED lights. Like, could you program a clock that counts up and down, or like a sign that, you know, could display words, stuff like that. You might buy like a more primitive, slower computer, one of these small computers where the actual things that you could do with a computer are much more limited. But by having that smaller space to work with, then you aren't just like Googling stuff onto the ages of the ages. Instead, you're able to focus on, okay, I could do, you know, these couple dozen different operations. Now, how do I fit these operations together to make systems that are useful to me? Cool. Well, I think it's been a animated stream today. And I have exhausted all the... Oh, no, I haven't exhausted all the topics on my notes. All right, 2 more things to show. So the first thing... So topic, nostalgia for an unlived past. One continued source of like interesting tech overlord stories I get is this Firefox new tab. So let me just show you what I'm saying when I get something. So by default on Firefox, they have this thing where you open a new tab and then they have all these recommended stories. And a lot of times, like these stories, they're targeting like a very, I don't know, they come up with some pretty weird stories. So let's just look at some here. So this pocket service, I think that's what they call it. But here, okay, Japanese internment, about this photo of people sitting here. Farewell, high-waisted skinny jeans, the low-rise returns, some book recommendations. Anyways, so it's like there's this collection of stories that they give you. Now, what sort of things is Firefox trying to tell you to do, or this pocket service more specifically? You get some pretty zany stories that come up here. So here's one that I thought was particularly interesting and related to this stream's topic. Here. Why you should master the art of lazy exercise. And then they show some nice looking blonde chick kind of reading a book in a minimalist aesthetic room on an exercise book. And we'll just read the first couple paragraphs. In college, I knew a girl who did a lot of her studying at the gym. She'd bring a textbook and prop it up on the treadmill, and somehow it worked for her. Anytime I tried it, I'd have a bouncing book, a terrible workout, and not be able to report back a single word I'd read. I still don't know exactly how she did it, but I've since developed a habit that feels surprisingly similar. Most mornings, I hop onto a spin bike for some easy cardio. I spend a good chunk of my workout scrolling through my phone. I'm texting friends, reading articles, and planning my day. My legs are moving, but so is my brain. And then justify. I also do real workout, blah, blah, blah. But here's the idea that this article is talking about lazy exercise in some form. Maybe another way to put this is like light work. So it's like you're doing some light work, like maybe catching up with some communications. Maybe you're listening to Alan's stream, and Alan's stream is very educational and helps you out. Hopefully this stream provides you some value. But while doing that, you're not doing like an ultra intense workout, but instead you're doing like a more slow, relaxed workout. And okay, so how does that relate to this nostalgia for an unlived past type of thing? I mean, I think that the whole exercise bike phenomenon is very interesting in some ways where, okay, pretty objectively, it's kind of boring to ride an exercise bike. Like, you need to be pretty mentally strong to, like, tell yourself, you know, I'm focused, like, make it into a game, for example. Like, I'm focused on beating my personal record or something. But you need some kind of goal to make it interesting. Or it could be that, you know, you're riding the exercise bike. It's like, I'm getting exercise by moving. But really, what I ultimately need to do is like distract myself with something else. So I'm riding an exercise bike because it's good for me. I need to move more. But because the nature of my work has been transformed, then I have to move, and I'll do some other activity while I'm on the bike. No, I was actually thinking about this the other day in the context that let's talk about delivering messages. So now we just send digital messages, very easy. But in the past, like maybe the way that you delivered messages would be someone would write a letter and you would actually have to deliver a letter on foot, right? So you might walk between two cities, do something like that. And this way, the the lazy, or what I'll just call like light exercise, oftentimes doing something like sending a message would be associated with some form of light exercise, in that to send someone a letter, then you might have to go for a little walk to send that letter, or even to pick up a newspaper. Like if you wanted to get some news, you would have to go walk over to some newsstand or something, or maybe you're going on and off a train with public transit. So there, before all the digital stuff, then there would be a lot of like not hardcore, you're dripping buckets of sweat, but like light exercise associated with stuff. So this stuff here, this quote unquote lazy exercise, to me, yeah, it sounded like a manner in which digital communications and stuff transformed how we do a lot of things, and now we're like sort of using the technology we have, like we're forced to kind of cope and reinvent the natural workflow. So there would be a normal natural workflow for like delivering a message or something, and now what we find ourselves doing is having to basically fake the more traditional process by which, like, let's just say for every message you have to go a certain distance on your exercise bike or something, would be the equivalent of like trying to add the physical or the body effort cost back into something that we now do digitally. And you could even think like cashing a check on an ATM. Like I still go to ATMs, but I know a lot of people, they just scan their checks. They don't even go to the ATMs. So I actually like the action of just going to the ATM. I would rather take the time, go to an ATM, and do that activity rather than just do it on my phone and then ride 30 minutes on an exercise bike. Maybe it would be more interesting to just spend like 30 minutes worth of like walking or transport or whatever, instead of doing the phone way. I don't know, just seems simpler to me. Okay, and then I just had one more news story to share, which is a recent video by the Pro Robots channel. So for those of you who have been watching my other content, one of the things I'm kind of following on this stream is how are the techno overlords rolling out stuff to usher in a new technological society for us. And this Pro Robots channel is very revealing of the latest and the greatest technologies. So they're showing robot trucks, robot flying things going around, but the cover story that they had was for these nanobot things that
robots are magnetically controlled and eject the drug only when they encounter an acidic environment around the tumor.
So these little robots that might be shaped like I think they said crabs or fish. There's a couple forms that sound kind of like zodiac signs. Anyways, what they will be able to do is have like little containers, and they could do something like release drugs automatically. So suppose that you got an injection.
Hydrogel bots in the shape of a...
You got an injection of the hydrogel bots at the doctor's office. They inject you with hydrogel bots. And then it's like no longer do you have to remember when to take the medication that they prescribe to you. Instead, they could just have a program with the hydrogel bots that have some sort of automatic process in order to do that. So I don't know too much about the specifics of how this stuff works. How does the robot inside you, perhaps, how would react with the outside environment? But just to show, on this Pro Robots channel, recent video, yesterday, December 5th, it's just showing you that this stuff is out there. A lot of ideas that would sound like tinfoil hat things, talking about, I don't know, injectable robots or stuff like that. Well, lo and behold, you could see that these things indeed have been in development for a long time. and you could do some interwebs research to see the state of the art of the technology, and you might actually be kind of surprised about how far a lot of things have come. And you could also see how, you have a world disrupting crisis. What a perfect opportunity in order to start bringing out some major changes that maybe people wouldn't feel a need for or wouldn't readily accept if they weren't put under some sort of trauma or pressure. Cool. Anyway, so now finally that exhausted all the content I had prepared today to go over. Thank you all for joining the stream. Looks like I don't have any final messages coming through right now on the chat, so I will close up the stream at this time. Thank you everybody for joining. It's been good. As always, if there's something you want me to talk about, some article or something you think would be good to feature on stream, feel free to send it my way. And I think people are liking this thematic approach where I have a kind of rough outline for something to go over, and then we could look at a lot of peripheral topics that kind of relate back in some form of another. So I'll continue trying this approach for the streams because it seems to be working all right. And next stream I'll plan to do tomorrow at maybe a little bit later, so it should come up scheduled on YouTube, so stay posted. All right, see you all later.